afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm your GoLocal Live host, Rachel Nunes. We got a very full show today. Lots of great people to talk to. Here with us first is Melissa Maschitto. She's here with the Providence Fringe Festival. Her play will be debuting this evening, correct?
That's right.
So,
opening night.
Welcome.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you very much.
And so you've written and directed this play, Artemisia's Intent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, first, I just want to say I'm thrilled to be back in Providence. I started my career here as an intern at Trinity Rep 14 years ago, so I've been having fun today and yesterday, sort of rediscovering the city.
Coming full circle.
Yeah, totally. And I'm just excited to be back in New England. I'm from Massachusetts originally, so thrilled that my family is going to be coming down tonight and tomorrow to see the show. So I'm here from New York City. I have a theater company called The Anthropologists. We are celebrating our 10th year. And what we do is we create devised theater that's research-based. So as an ensemble, we will research a certain topic or historical event or figure and pull together cultural artifacts, text, all kinds of things depending on the show, and from there build a show. So this is a solo show, but it was created by a team of 5 women. And then I took all of the content we created in rehearsal and research and other writings and synthesized it into the script, and it's being performed by Mariah Frida, who's absolutely fabulous. I'm saying that in the least biased way that I can, a Boston University grad, so we're extra excited to be back in the area.
So definitely lots of local roots, which is really great to pull all that great talent back into New England.
And we're just so thrilled to be here. This is the 5th annual Providence Fringe Festival, and last night we were at opening night. We have our opening performance tonight at 8:30 p.m. and we also have one more show tomorrow night at 7 p.m. at the Wilbury Theater Group, which is a new space, which is so exciting. It's a beautiful new black box theater. It's at 40 Sonoma Court in the Olneyville section. So
great.
We're thrilled.
Great. And so tell us a little bit about the play. You said you start with an idea and you go from there. Where did this play come from?
So back at the beginning of 2017, I had heard about this artist named Artemisia Gentileschi, an Italian artist from the 17th century, and I was just kind of shocked that I had never heard of her before. She was having a major exhibition in Rome, in Italy. So first I tried to convince Mariah Frida, the performer and co-collaborator, I tried to convince her to go to Italy with me. That didn't happen, but instead we began this journey looking at her, at Artemisia's phenomenal paintings and wondering why we had never heard of her or really seen her work. And at the same time we were learning about her personal life, which in a very rare circumstance, part of her life is preserved in trial testimony from 1612. So this was a court case that involved her father, but also a tutor that was mentoring her who assaulted her. And this was the centerpiece of this trial in 1612, and remarkably, that testimony still exists and has been translated into English from Italian. So we're really indebted to the scholars that have studied her. And we also, we use text from the trial testimony, and we use texts from letters that she wrote to her patrons. And I think we were all just sort of stunned by how much her words resonate today. So we're really kind of drawing this connection between what's been happening in 2017, 2018 in the arts and entertainment world, drawing a line back to 1612 and even back to biblical times, the subjects of so many of her paintings.
It sounds really fascinating, and it's interesting that there's so much there to look at. You know, you don't usually see a lot of female artists from that time period, or even more recently. It's not
true.
as common.
And there's only a few paintings of hers that are in the United States. The closest one to us is in Hartford, Connecticut. Highly recommend a trip because it's amazing. And then, you know, just recently, maybe a month ago, the National Gallery in London purchased a newly discovered self-portrait by Artemisia for £3.6 million. And it was the first piece of art they had purchased by a woman artist since the 1990s or something. So that's a huge precedent, but it also points to something very important, which is representation for women in the arts. And so I feel really fortunate that we've been a women-led theater company for 10 years, doing a lot of work to bring women's stories to the stage, and we're just really excited to share Artemisia with Providence. So if you see our postcard around town, Artemisia's saying hi to you. She wants you to come to her studio, so please join us tonight at 8:30 and tomorrow at 7 p.m. And Great. It's only $10.
It's only, and can you buy tickets online, buy them at the door?
So all of the tickets for all the Fringe events are available only at the door, cash preferred, although depending on the artist, they're accepting cards. And we're just in really, really fantastic company. So there are a bunch of venues around the city. That's our task later today before we go to our technical rehearsal, is to check out the Waterfire Arts Center and look at all the other places that are just going to be filled with amazing artists for this whole week.
And tell us just a little bit more about the Fringe Festival. It's to highlight different types of art, and
yeah, it really runs the gamut. The Fringe festivals have a long and rich history, so it's exciting that Providence has embraced that. And it's both for artists to get new work out. This play in particular was born at the Frigid Festival, which is in New York City, and part of a really phenomenal circuit of Fringes all over the US and Canada. I think there's another Frigid artist who is here at Providence Fringe as well. So it's about people, artists taking risks, trying new things, being experimental. So there's a lot of local, Rhode Island artists. We met a whole bunch of people from Portland, Maine, and there are other artists from New York City and kind of all around. So Providence Fringe is amazing in that all of the ticket sales go to the artists. So any ticket sales, for us, that's amazing in terms of helping us to cover the costs of driving to Providence and staying here. And it's just so important to recognize that, artists are putting themselves out there, making work, and deserve to be compensated for that. So Providence Fringe is where it's at. We're really excited.
What a great way to experience something new and support local and national artists as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, best of luck. I'm sorry, break a leg.
Yes. Thank you. Well, we're saying break a frame, although I don't want to because there's lots of frames in this show.
Well, break a frame this evening, and it's $10, and where did you say it was?
It's at the Wilbury Theater Group, which is a beautiful new space on 40 Sonoma Court. There's plenty of parking, and there's a show before us tonight and a show after us tomorrow night. But please come and check out Artemisia's Intent.
All right, be sure to check that out. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa. We really appreciate it, and we will be right back with our next guest right here on GoLocal Live. Welcome back to Go Local Live here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. With us now is Tabitha Jorgensen. She's the president of the Board of Trustees of the Meadowbrook Waldorf School down in Richmond. And she's here to talk to us about the next steps for the school following the very tragic fire earlier this week. First of all, our deepest apologies to you and the community.
Thank you very much.
It's so heartbreaking to hear about that. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me here. I know that the community has been just amazing, and our greater community, people we don't even know, have reached out to us. So thank you for giving me a little bit of a platform to talk about our beautiful school and our recovery efforts. I appreciate it.
It really is incredible how the community comes together.
It is, and we have at Meadowbrook an incredible community of parents and teachers and students and our immediate community, but this opportunity, this tragedy gave us an opportunity to see that wider community. I was just coming, before I came on the air, was clicking through my Facebook posts, and the Meadowbrook site and the South Kingstown School Department just donated 190 chairs and desks to the students. So, you know, you just can't put a price tag on that kind of generosity in a time of need. So we thank them greatly. And I do want to just even start off by saying thank you to the fire department and the first responders and the police who were there throughout the day into the evening, made sure the site stayed safe and nobody could get there while they were still fighting the fires. So we appreciate all of your work, and they took good care of us. You know, they were kind, and they were just, you knew that they understood it was a tragedy for us. You know, obviously no life was lost, and so we are immensely grateful. But it's still a big community loss and a loss of beautiful things and beautiful memories. Well, the memories are still there.
So what's the next step now that I saw on your Facebook you've started to go through the wreckage a little bit, recover some treasures that are
it feels like
still there.
Relics. You know, we're finding these little relics, and it's like, oh, something survived. So basically, our biggest priority is to get the kids into school in September. So we're looking at renting space somewhere. We'd like to stay within our busing district because that's for the parents to be able to know that transportation is taken care of in the way that it was last year.
And less jarring for the children.
It's very jarring, yes. It just keeps a consistency where we can keep a consistency, you know. So we're looking now, we have a team of one of our administrators and the kindergarten teacher and a grades teacher. So they're going and checking out sites today. I know that that was on their agenda for today. I don't know, I haven't gotten a report back yet on how they fared, but I know that that's what they're up to. You know, our administrator is hard at work on the site with the, you know, we do have an opportunity to go through the wreckage, essentially, and try to pull out anything essential, or anything that survived, I should say. There's really nothing left. So, so they're doing that, and then we'll be able to clear it away, and our next order of business is to have our community gather there and sort of say a goodbye to that particular building on our site. We have a beautiful festival field in the back, so we're hoping to have something there in the next few days once the debris is cleared and it's safe. And then we'll begin planning for the future. And we have 28 acres of land there. It's amazing. I was on site yesterday, and the trees are there. Except for the one that got struck by lightning. And you know, there's room to rebuild.
That's great. And so the plan is to build a new school on the same site? On
the same property, absolutely. Like I said, we have 28 acres, so you know, we have an opportunity to vision a little bit, but you know, yes, we are going to rebuild. It's our home, and we're gonna stay there.
And so tell us a little bit about the school. It was it's not very old. It's only been there since 2011, if I'm correct.
Yeah, this particular building and site we're going into our 11th year, but the school is much older. I joined the school 19 years ago. I was just a young mom with a rising first grader, and I was looking for an alternative education for him. And I stumbled upon the school. I think you might have read that in my post, but you know, I just was driving by, and they were located in the basement of the Prout School at the time. And I just went in, and I peeked in the windows, and I thought, probably a little stalkerish, but I peeked in the windows, and I thought, this is really charming. There's something different here. So I observed some classes, and my husband and I enrolled our oldest son there for first grade, and I didn't understand much about it, but over the years I went from a parent to a parent volunteer to the admissions director to the Latin teacher in the middle school to the OSNA delegate to now the president of the board. So I've had a journey with the school as well. So I would say when I joined 19 years ago, the school was in the position to try and settle in somewhere. A site had always been an issue for them, and so it was hard to keep enrollment when you have to bounce around and you don't have a site. So we found a place on John Potter Road in West Greenwich, and it was a long-term lease, and it was a beautiful piece of property, and they were happy to have us, so we could kind of sink our feet into it, you know, and start planning for the future for, you know, in a bigger way. And so at that moment in time, we began a 10-year plan to purchase land and build a building, and we have moved into this site 8 years into that 10-year plan. And so I was part of that effort, fundraising and building, and I was the admissions director at the time, so I was there every day. And my youngest child had the opportunity to be in this building from nursery through 8th grade when she just graduated in June. And so there's just a real bittersweet,
of course,
you know, from a parent perspective, and my children everybody's a bit traumatized, I will say.
I'm sure. And what have you been saying to parents? How do you break something like this to a child?
Well, it's a big concern for us because we so try to protect our youngest children especially and try to keep childhood sacred. And our school building, I think any school building is supposed to be safe. It's supposed to represent, you know, exactly. And so, we really are trying to keep the images away from them because you can talk about it and you can create, but once you see an image, it's just kind of burned in your brain. So we're really trying to be careful about that. We're telling them, you know, we're guiding them to say that everyone is all right. You know, everyone is still there. Your school is still there. It's just the building is gone. And so depending on the age, you can give a little more, a little less. But it's really to try to, you know, still keep them feeling safe.
And you did talk about the plans to launch a massive fundraising campaign.
It's launched because people have been texting us and emailing us and saying, I'm donating XYZ. So we said, let's get that up so we can you know, just allow people to be generous. So on our website, meadowbrookschool.com, there's a link, and then there's also a GoFundMe program that they all kind of are part of the same thing.
What can we, as the community, do? Of course, like the larger groups, like schools can donate the school supplies. Is it better to get together books and things we have, or give money? What can we do as a community?
Money is always appreciated because it's quick and it's now, and it's something that will, you know, just give us that cushion to, you know, obviously we have an insurance policy, but there's just
so much to do. So
much to do. And, you know, that would be very helpful. But beyond that, we are getting the framework in place to collect, pair volunteers with tasks, you know, and say our immediate tasks are XYZ, who would like to come and do this, you know, and start to do that. So we have 2 parents at the school that are on that, and they'll start to be putting out official, you know, postings and such. Yeah, but also too, you know, if we still haven't locked down a site, so that's, as far as I know, as of, you know, 8 o'clock this morning, that could have changed. But if there's information on that, if there's, again, supplies, just, you know, send us an email and say, here, we're here to help, and somebody will follow up or will funnel you to the person who knows what to do with your goodwill. But we are so grateful. I can't, you know, every time we're looking at that wreckage and just wanting to cry, and we do, you know, somebody does something really amazing, and we say, you know what, we're going to be okay. You know, we're going to be okay, and this is an amazing community. It really is, and I think this set of younger parents that are just coming and joining us, they don't even know what they're capable, what they're going to do, and they're going to do something amazing. They're going to give us a Meadowbrook for tomorrow, and for their children, and for their children's children. And I had committed to stay on the board for 3 more years because we were about to launch a capital campaign for expansion, and that just took a pivot on Sunday morning, and we said, well, we're gonna rebuild our school, and so I'm there to serve the school in any way that I can. It's my beloved Meadowbrook, and I grew up there, as did my children, and so anything that I can do, I'm there to do, committed to doing.
Well, our deepest condolences to the community, and best of luck with the rebuilding. And of course, a big thank you to everyone in the community who's reached out. Like I said, it really is incredible how the community comes together in times of tragedy to really, help lift each other up.
Yes.
So thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We really do appreciate it. I know you must be incredibly busy trying to get everything in order.
I'm a little bit tired, but I
sure.
welcome the opportunity to thank everyone and to be here and to just say, you know what, in the dark, the light shines, and it shines brightly. And
it does.
Yeah, it's given me some hope for our rebuilding, for sure. So,
well, best of luck with that.
Thank you.
And we'll stay tuned to see what's next for the next chapter of Meadowbrook.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. And we'll be right back here on GoLocal Live. Welcome back to Go Local Live here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. We have with us now John Bittner. He's the CEO of Splitwise, the latest app in sharing money with your friends and splitting costs, and we're very grateful to have him here today. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much.
So tell us a little bit about Splitwise. What is it?
Splitwise is the easiest way to keep track of shared expenses with your friends, family, basically anyone who you share money with. You know, I think pretty much everyone's had the experience of going on a trip and splitting, say, a rental house or going to the beach or living in an apartment with roommates and not knowing who owes who what, can't remember what I bought, what did you buy, what did I buy, who owes who, how much do we owe. That's what Splitwise solves for people. It helps them keep track of who owes who and reduce awkward conversations about money.
That sounds convenient. I know when I lived at school, we had a whiteboard up on our fridge that we called the New York Stock Exchange, and it was just a running list of
Exactly.
who owed what, and it was just constant, you owe me this, but you owe me that, so this helps simplify that.
It's so much simpler. If you're the kind of person who would have had a whiteboard or a jar of receipts or a spreadsheet that you were keeping in Excel to keep track of your shared expenses, Splitwise is just really going to make life a lot easier for you. It's totally free. It's an app that's available on iPhone, on Android, or just you can use our website if you don't like using apps. And yeah, people are using it all over the world to keep track of shared expenses from the US, Europe, India, Japan, everywhere. People use Splitwise all over the world, millions of people.
And so there seem to be all sorts of different apps for budgeting and for paying people. There's PayPal, there's Venmo. What makes you guys different?
Cool. Actually, we integrate with PayPal and Venmo. So if you like Venmoing your friends to pay them back, that works great with Splitwise. We don't do payments. We help you keep track of shared expenses. We help you not have an awkward conversation about money with your friends because it's all right there. I know that I use Venmo, and if someone Venmos me for something, I can never remember what it was, or maybe I'll lose track of it, or maybe I don't have the money right now. Splitwise is really a conversation tool. In terms of, there are a lot of apps for personal finance, and I think Splitwise is really a different take. You know, I'm not super great about keeping track of how much money I spent at Need Donuts this week. You know, that's not why I use Splitwise. That's not why we made Splitwise. It's more about making sure that you're having great relationships with your friends.
So it's great for things like you said, like rent and shared expenses like that.
Yeah, I was using it for a long time with my wife before we got married to keep track of our household budget and who had paid for which bills. Now I mostly use it on bachelor parties. A lot of my friends are getting married this time in the last few years. And I hear about people using it for all different things. People are using it to keep track of maybe if you are taking care of your parents and you need to keep track of who's paid for, your siblings are trying to split the bills that you're paying on behalf of someone who's elderly. We have people keeping track of childcare expenses, all kinds of different stuff.
Great, and so you're located right here in downtown Providence.
Yes.
And when were you launched?
We launched Splitwise as a product in 2011. It's been around for a while and been growing and growing and growing. And we moved to Providence and incorporated the company in 2012. It started out as a side project with one of my friends and has blossomed into a small company, but we have a large number of people using our product.
And very far-reaching as well, which is great for Rhode Island business to be able to say, look, we have this small but international company right here downtown.
Yeah, and we love Providence. I mean, we've been here now a little over 6 years. Grown the whole company here. Pretty much all but one of our employees is local here, and that's what we're looking to grow. We have investors from all over the country, but we want to grow our team in Providence, designers, engineers, and data scientists to come join us and help us build a really big, meaningful global brand, as crazy as that is.
And so what's next?
We're working right now on some really cool new stuff. We have we're launching our first, Splitwise is free, but there'll be a paid subscription coming out soon in the US, which is really exciting. I can't tell you all the cool things that are going to be in it, but it's going to be something you've never seen before. Some really cool, powerful features. We're growing the team, so I think one of the big new things for us is hiring our first, we're a small company now, but we'll be hiring, hoping to almost double the company over the next couple of years.
Wow.
And I think for us, what's next is just finding more and more ways to help people split their shared expenses. We're launching some really cool new features for couples, which I'll be excited to announce soon. But yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. I know it's sometimes easier with your friends to say like, oh, you owe me for this, but if you live together, you don't have shared finances, it can get a little awkward, and then suddenly it's bean counting of, well, you owe me this and I owe you that, and this is a nice way to smooth over that.
Exactly, exactly. And so, you know, if I, one thing that some people do, I know on Splitwise, is they want to split with, maybe they have someone who they live with, like a sibling or a romantic partner who they want to split 60-40 with. And we're going to split all our bills 60-40 because I have a great job and you're a student or something like that. And Splitwise will have some really, really cool, it's like a fabulous tool for a situation like that. Yeah.
Great. Well, we look forward to what's next. And one last question, it's kind of an interesting conversation that seems to have come up, especially in the age of Venmo, is what do you think of the phenomenon of getting rid of social gifts in a way? You know, it used to be like, we go out as friends, and then, you know, there's 3 of us, and I'll get it this time, you get it next time. And now, maybe we thought it would be like that. Then you get home, and suddenly, I have a $5 charge on Venmo because you didn't pay me back. What do you think of the social commodification?
That's a cool question. I think that, you know, ultimately, Venmo and Splitwise both are really, really powerful tools that can let you do a lot of things in such a simpler way. The sort of culture of how you use those products is evolving, and you know that what could be cool for one group of friends might not be for another, and sometimes, like for instance in this example you gave with Venmo, that can become a friction point. I believe that gifting is still a good way to solve lots of social problems, and it can be very cool. So can, you know, as long as you have an understanding with your friends about what is fair, then you can use these tools to make that really easy to act on, and you don't have to keep talking about it over and over again. I know what you mean. You know, one big difference between Venmo and Splitwise that I like to focus on sometimes is that Splitwise is very private. So if you have a situation like that with a friend, you know, it'll be completely private to the 2 of you. Splitwise, everything is just shared with the people and directly involved. There's no default posting or anything. And that's worked great for Venmo, but that's not the way we feel about Splitwise.
Great. Well, thanks so much for coming in, telling us about the product. I'll have to check it out for myself. I'm moving into an apartment sometime soon, so maybe that's the new good solution.
Yeah, totally. And if there are any viewers watching right now who are interested in working at Splitwise, we'd love to hear from you at jobs@splitwise.com. That's one of the reasons I was excited to talk to you today.
Great, and it's great to hear that our local Providence companies are doing so well.
Yeah, it's really great.
Well, best of luck to you. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, and we'll be right back with our next guest here on GoLocal Live. Welcome back to Go Local Live here in the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. We're joined now by Stephen Horahan. He is the Executive Director of AIDS Project Rhode Island. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about, there's been a lot of buzz lately in the national media about the use of using HIV medication preventatively to help prevent transmission. And of course, this is just research and it's in its early stages, but tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Oh, it's actually pretty exciting. We have the ability now to really say that if you are HIV positive and if you are on medication and you are undetectable, that you cannot transmit the virus, which means that, and the whole campaign is called U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. It was brought out last week in in Amsterdam at the International AIDS Conference. They talked about the fact that they've done 87,000 individual sex acts with 2 people, one being positive, one being negative, and no one has become infected. So it's a very, very positive thing. So it's great news for there. And then the other thing that's been in the news a lot, and we talk about, and something that I think your viewers might be interested in, is PrEP. And PrEP is a 1 time a day pill that will ultimately make you immune to HIV. You take it, you stay on it, and if you are engaged in a risky behavior, having sexual intercourse or having sex with someone who is positive, the chances of you becoming positive are reduced to 99%. There's no chance of really getting HIV.
Wow, these are incredible strides we've made in just a few decades.
We have, and the big news with the U equals U is that we're really, our goal at AIDS Project Rhode Island and across the country with all the AIDS organizations, our goal is to make sure that we send the message out there to reduce stigma and to hopefully have people who are HIV positive to get out, to get tested, to stay on their meds and know that their life is not over, especially their sex life is not over because they're HIV positive. They can continue to engage, they can have a healthy sex life, and they're not going to be infecting anyone.
Of course, so a big piece of this is education then, to make sure people get tested and to know that there are options. It's not the death sentence it was 10, 20 years ago.
Exactly. And the best part about this is that we have, first of all, at APRI, we are now have very serious programs that are doing things around treatment. We work very closely with everybody in the state of Rhode Island who's HIV positive, but we also have invested a great deal in a mobile testing van to be out in the community, talking to people, getting out around at all the colleges. We're out in the community at places where we know people who have men who have sex with men meet, and we basically engage where people are. We also have people on our staff who spend their time working on the apps and where people meet, on Tinder, on Bumble, on Grindr, all of the apps where people might potentially be exposed, and we can actually get them in to be tested and make sure that they understand what their status is, and if they're positive, get them on meds so they can become untransmittable.
And so who would you recommend for both testing and for use of these preventative measures?
Well, anybody who's sexually active basically is at risk. The highest risk, though, is unfortunately is among men who have sex with men, and the largest group of population that really is at risk is with Latino men and African American men. And we know that you have greater risk of being HIV positive because of the access to health care, the poverty issues, and also just the fact that people who are not really aware of the testing and have not been tested in their lives. So the answer for what I would say for everyone is that if you're sexually active, heterosexually or homosexually, you basically should be thinking about having a test at least once a year, making sure that you know your status, talk about your status with your partner when you meet someone, ask the question, are you positive? Have you had a test? When's the last time you had a test? And then make sure that you check for STDs continually. And use condoms, which is something that we give away a lot of condoms. We still encourage condom use, and we know that all of this, the meds and everything help, but ultimately it doesn't work for us to have a very to take condoms out of the equation.
So these people considered in high risk categories, these are the ones that we'd recommend the medication to. And is the FDA testing it? When will it become?
It's all approved. It's been out there. It's been approved for years, and it's a drug that was used as part of the gay AIDS cocktail. So when the AIDS cocktail was being done back, and it was approved in 2012 for individual use, we have a full-on program with the manufacturer who's called Gilead. It's a very expensive drug. We know I think it's too expensive, speaking for myself and for AIDS Project Rhode Island. We believe that it's way too expensive. It's about $1,400 a month.
Wow.
And but they have assistance programs to pay for it, and they also have assistance programs for the copay. So if you have insurance and you have the ability to get on the drug, it's something we highly recommend. We work very closely with the Miriam Hospital and Dr. Phil Chan and his team there. So if someone wants it, APRI is the place where you can come. It's aidsprojectri.org, and you can basically make an appointment to come in, get tested. If you want to get on PrEP, we will walk you to the Miriam and make sure that you have everything you need to get the test.
And so what kind of ramifications might this have in other lesser developed countries where there's less education and less access to healthcare, places like Africa where HIV cases are exploding?
It's a huge undertaking, and basically we think of it, it's life-saving. And there's been a lot of discussions. The cost is the biggest issue, but because we have the opportunity as a nation and as an organization for APRI and a part of the national AIDS world, we are really pushing to make sure that people are aware of it, and we know that we can stop people from becoming infected and ultimately stop the spread of HIV. HIV is a preventable disease. We know it is, and ultimately our goal at APRI is to stop it, and basically so that we can close up shop and go home.
So do you think that's something that could come in the coming decades? Do you see
yes,
that
I do see it. I do see it as something. I think that the more advances we have, there are discussions around vaccines, there are discussions around opportunities for if we can destigmatize the HIV piece and get U equals U and people understanding that. It's a very important thing. And then also just the idea of really making sure that college-age people get used to testing. 20 years ago, people saw people with AIDS, they understood the dangers of it, and people were dying from it. Now, the reality is that we have a situation where they don't see it on the front page of the paper, they don't see movies, they don't see plays, they don't see it in popular culture, so it's sort of gone behind the scenes, but ultimately people are still infected, still getting infected, and also people still are feeling the effects of the disease.
And here in Rhode Island, are cases on the decline?
Unfortunately, we've had an increase in the number of new cases. Overall, people are living longer, which is great, and we have a huge group of people from our who have been positive for more than 20 years in a lot of ways. So one of our major goals is to make sure that we deal with the long-term care of people with HIV and make sure that they have the health care, they have the housing, they have the things that they need, and also the reality is trying to find doctors, trying to find nursing homes, all of those things as you age. It's all part of a process that as an agency we're at the leading edge of, and trying to make sure that people get what they need.
Great. And do you think, especially here in Rhode Island, do you think public schools need to educate students more? Of course.
Yeah, we actually speak in schools. We have speakers that go out, and you can find out about that at aidsprojectri.org. Teachers, we go into schools anywhere from grammar schools and middle schools right on up. When health education is taught, it should be taught, be part of the curriculum. And we also know that people who at the college level, when we go out and speak about healthy relationships and how to engage in a conversation about HIV, we do all of that with a really talented group of men and women who are testers and who are part of that team. It's really exciting that I think that, and I would not be, our goal is to have a very, very reduced number of people in the state of Rhode Island who are HIV positive, and the number of people who are finding out that they're positive.
And it seems like it's more and more possible with all of these.
And thank you for the opportunity to talk about it. Get out on your airwaves. I'm out all the time. Our team is out daily making sure that people understand what's going on.
Great. Well, thanks for taking the time to come in and speak with us,
Rachel.
Break down all of the new things that are happening.
My pleasure, totally.
Great.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
You bet.
And we'll be back in just a couple minutes with our last guest of today. Welcome back to Go Local Live. We're here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center with Michelle Peterson. She's a recent grad and she's the founder of the new revolution of communication for social work. So we're very excited to have her here. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about TextUp.
Yeah, so what we've built is a communication platform for social workers and nonprofits. So it does a range of things. It automates record keeping. It helps these organizations meet federal and state data protection requirements. It also has a lot of features that save them time and save them money, just so they have more resources to do the critical work that they do.
And so how did this idea come to you?
Yeah, so it came about, my co-founder and I both have direct experience in social work and specifically homeless services. I was working in Hasbro Children's Hospital and my co-founder was volunteering regularly at Harrington Hall, which is a men's shelter in Rhode Island. And we both just were overwhelmed with how much work everyone on staff was expected to do. And we just realized there wasn't a software tool that was available at a price point that these agencies could afford. So we were lucky enough to have the resources at Brown to then build something to meet the needs of those organizations.
And so it's really a way of making a private line of communication without social workers necessarily having to give out their private phone numbers and information. Is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. So if you're talking about your typical commercial entity, they're going to give you a work phone or a work phone number. But a lot of social work agencies and nonprofits can't afford that just because it's a lot of money for very tight budgets. So instead what they oftentimes do is they have their staff use their personal phones. But the issue with that is then there's zero work personal life separation. So a social worker can be getting a call at 3 in the morning on a Saturday or in the middle of the night on Tuesday, and there's essentially just no time to recoup and have a separate life outside of work. And then there's also an issue where technically using a personal phone breaks HIPAA guidelines, which are mandated by the federal government. So it just creates a lot of issues on a lot of different realms for these organizations when they use personal phones. So the privacy protected platform that we've created allows them to access TextUp from their personal devices while still having that separate work phone number and meeting data protection requirements.
That's such a great solution. So it's available on phones. Can you use it on other platforms as well?
Yes, you can use it on anything that gets internet, anything that can pull up a web browser. So any type of tablet, laptop, etc.
Great, and so you just graduated this year, and so you're already very, very busy. And when did you come up with this?
So it started in 2015, actually, so it's been a little while. It's very exciting for it to finally get to the stage of a full-time business, especially right at the perfect time of me graduating a couple months ago.
And you recently won an award as well for, was it for a startup award?
Yes, so we won a couple. We won, Brown University had a pitch competition, which we got third in. So we got a cash prize from that. We also won the Rhode Island Business Plan competition. We're actually the first student-run venture to ever win the competition, and it's 18 years of operation, so we're very proud of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. So we got first place in the state for that, and then we also got an additional award from Brown University to support my co-founder and I working on this full-time for our first year.
That's great. And so is it just the two of you?
Yes, yeah, it's just the two of us working full-time. But honestly, I couldn't pick a better person to work with. It's been the two of us from the very beginning in 2015. So yeah, perfect business partner.
And is TextUp available now?
Yes, yeah. So we do have a handful of organizations, I believe it's 11, that are using it in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. And we are always happy to take on new contracts and provide free demos to anyone who is interested. Our email is connect@textup.org.
Great. And so what's next for you guys? It seems like you're off to the races, off and running. What's the next steps?
So the next steps for us, we're on Eric's side of things on the development side. We're rounding out a couple additional features to really finish our value proposition. So just a couple extra things to kind of just make TextUp even that much more useful for social workers. On my end of things, it's a lot of sales, a lot of outreach, and just kind of getting our name out there.
Great. Well, congratulations, and we're very excited to see where the next few years take you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so that's it for this hour for us. Kate will be up at 4, so you don't want to miss it. She's got a lot of great guests on today, too. And here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, I'm your Go Local Live host, Rachel Nunes.